Welcome back to INKPULP Instruction. We've covered the gesture drawing, and in today's video, we're going to cover the head, the shape of the head, and how and why it applies to the gesture. Now it's time to address the head in the gesture drawing, which is important for a few reasons. One, you start to flesh out the masses of the head, and two, it starts to give personality and emotion to the figure you're drawing. So the first thing I just talked about was the masses of the head. So typically when people start to draw the head, they start with an oval form. And the reason for that is when we're talking about anatomy, your skull consists of a cranial mass, which is a very spherical form that your head falls off of. And then your jaws fall off of that mass. So this sort of upside down egg shape seems to be a very simplified and accurate way of describing the anatomy of the head. So that's why we use it. Also in profile, it helps to think of it. You still have the jaw falling off the sphere, but a little jawline helps. Just for example. So when dealing with the head, there's multiple angles. We should also address the 3/4 view, which I will always keep that egg shape going. And then of course the rear view, which tends to mainly be the cranial mass where the neck will come off of. Sometimes you'll see an indication of the jaw as well. So these are just simplified forms for drawing the head. So in the gesture drawing of this figure, I have already loosely laid in the shape of the head, but now it's time for me to look a little closer at the photo we're using to make sure I'm getting the direction and shape of the head correct. So there we go. And then what you want to do next really helps describe the masses of the head and the general attitude of the figure you're drawing. So what we're going to do in order to help in that area, because we're getting into some more challenging areas, showing the perspective on the head and hinting at some of the volume of the head, we're going to start using cross contours. What's a cross contour? So cross contours, very simply, are one of the most powerful tools that will help us in figure drawing. And what cross contours are, they're lines that wrap across the volume of the form. And in perspective, if we were to draw through the head, you'd see this oval wraps around the head. If we look at the top, so this indicates we're looking down at the head a little bit because we can see the top. So these cross contours help us understand the volume of the head and the direction the head is looking. So if we had a 3/4 view at an angle, we could again use the center line, and cross contours always work great when you use a center point or an anatomical landmark area. So again, if we were to draw through, you'd see the other side of this. But here you can see the figure is looking up in this direction. So finding those cross contours really helps. And then the other cross contour I would suggest you consider is the edge of the face. So here, having a cross contour here helps us understand that we have this plane and that plane. And that's getting into some planometric anatomy, which we'll cover in later, more advanced videos. So when applying these ideas to the figure drawing at hand, I'm looking at the figure and I'm noticing that it's slightly in a 3/4 view, really looking up. And then what I like to do also is indicate the chin. So it tells me that this mass here is more the underside of the chin. And when working on the head here in the gesture, it's always a good idea at this point to indicate the neck. And And that is the cross contours of the head. Well, I guess I should cover, I talked about covering the plane of the face a little more too. So knock all that out. And you've got the cross contours of the head. Hi, my name is Shawn Crystal. I'm a comic book artist who's been drawing for Marvel and DC Comics for the past 20 years, and I'm also an educator. I built the Sequential Art department at SCAD in Atlanta with my good friend Pat Quinn. I ran that department and taught every class in that department for about 10 years. After I left teaching, I dedicated myself to drawing comics full-time. After a few years, I missed teaching, and I decided I wanted to create my own online comic book art school. INKPULP Instruction is designed to celebrate and teach the craft of comic book art. It is a series of videos and bite-sized tutorials that will instruct the beginning comic book artist as well as the seasoned pro. It is the best online resource for learning sequential art. Keep craft alive. Join INKPULP Instruction now.